At some point in life, almost everyone hears the same phrase: act your age. Sometimes it's said jokingly, sometimes it's said critically, sometimes it's not even spoken out loud at all. But hidden inside that phrase is a dangerous idea. It's an idea that says at a certain age, you should slow down. At a certain age, you should stop playing. At a certain age, you should stop trying. At a certain age, certain abilities are no longer appropriate for you. And the moment people begin accepting that idea, they don't just change emotionally, they begin to change physically. Today on the Personal Age Fitness Podcast. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Personal Age Fitness Podcast. My name is Garrett Williamson, president of Personal Age Fitness, and as always, we are here to talk about health, fitness, longevity, and pushing back against what I call the live age, the ridiculous concept that time passing on a calendar actually causes deterioration. And today we're talking about one of the most socially accepted lies in our culture: act your age. If you ever like to reach out to us, contact me, Garrett at personalagefitness.com. Personalagefitness.com is, of course, our website. Welcome to call us here at the podcast at 251-278-3343. And you can always follow us on our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, and even YouTube. All right, when does this start? Here's an interesting question. When do we actually start worrying about age? Because when we're children, we can't wait to get older. A 4-year-old doesn't say, I'm 4. No matter when their birthday was, they're going to tell you, I'm 4.5. And they're proud of it. Why? Because being older means more privilege, more freedom, more ability. The 5-year-old can run faster. The older kids get to stay up later. The teenager gets to drive. At 16, huge privilege. At 21, huge privilege. So for the first part of our lives, age is associated with possibility. But then there's a pivot. Something changes. And I think it happens around the late 20s, really from about 22 to 29. You have a nice little zone where you really don't care about age. It's no big deal. Kind of wish we all lived in that mindset. But at 29, people suddenly become 29 plus 1. And once 30 hits, the cultural messaging shifts dramatically. You are no longer young. Now you're supposed to settle down, slow down, be realistic, act your age. And from there, the milestones become darker. Black balloons for your birthday, over the hill comments. You're not 20 anymore. And what's happening psychologically is profound. We slowly stop associating age with possibility and begin associating it with limitation. And once that mindset changes, behavior changes. Then physiology simply follows, because identity drives behavior. Let me talk about how adults begin shrinking themselves. Here's what's fascinating. Most people don't realize they're doing this. It happens slowly, one behavior at a time. And many times it disguises itself as success. Privilege and inactivity is one that we see a lot. Think about this. When you're younger, you cut your own grass. You're the one that carries things. You run around. You take the stairs. But as people become more successful, life becomes more convenient. As time passes, you get the closer parking spot. You work in a building that has an elevator, or live in a building that has an elevator. You don't get your recliner when you're 7 or 8 or 10 or 12. You get it when you're 40. You get a yard service, somebody else to do physical labor. And culturally, those things become status symbols. I have people for that. But what most folks don't realize is while convenience increases, activity decreases. And eventually, ability decreases too. Now, if you're just joining us, this is the Personalized Fitness Podcast, and today we're talking about the lie of act your age. And a lot of our good ideas for podcasts actually come from listeners of the podcast. So if you'd like to reach out to us, if you have any ideas, have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out to me at garrett@personalizedfitness.com. Contact us directly through our website, personalizedfitness.com. You can call the podcast line at 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. And as always, be on the lookout for my upcoming book, The Lie of Age, where we dive much deeper into all of these concepts. Let's get back to this act your age and where the fear begins. The fear begins, and once people begin losing certain abilities, fear really begins. I had a client once who was incredibly strong. I mean, in phenomenally strong. Leg pressing several hundred pounds. Walking lunges with good 30-pound dumbbells. And we're talking somebody that was not a spring chicken by any means. And I wanted him to do a simple plyometric jump, nothing extreme. But no matter what I did, he would never allow both feet to leave the floor at the same time. Finally, I realized, and if you think about it, that's what running is. He wouldn't just jump up in the air, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. He had developed a fear of leaving the ground. Now, that's what, like I said, that's what running is. At some point during running, both feet are off the ground. The same thing with skipping. The same thing with playful movement. And little by little, adults begin avoiding these things. Not because they're incapable initially, but because they've accepted the idea, people my age don't do that. This even affects posture. People often think stooped posture is simply aging. But where it usually starts, it starts psychologically first. People become afraid of falling. So instead of looking straight forward when they're walking, they begin to look downward. And your body follows your head follows your eyes. They begin lowering their center of gravity, dropping their head down, starting to stoop their shoulders. And little by little, their shoulders round, the head drops forward, the body starts closing down. And eventually, the physical posture begins reflecting the mental posture. And this goes deeper than movement. Because once people start identifying as old, confidence completely changes. Social behavior changes. Self-image changes. Research has consistently shown that negative beliefs about aging are associated with decreased physical activity, increased depression, reduced mobility, worse long-term health outcomes even. In other words, mindset, I've told you all this several times, mindset changes physiology. That's why it's one of the 4 components of ability, and it's the most important. One of my favorite examples was a woman who came to us saying she wanted better balance. She wanted more strength. She wanted more mobility. But after talking longer, because it's never a physical reason that somebody comes in to see us, we discovered the real reason she came in. She had just gotten her first grandson. And she realized she couldn't comfortably get on the floor and play with him. That was the real reason. Not weight loss, not fitness. She wanted her life back. And months later, she came in excited because she had gotten on the floor and played Hot Wheels with her grandson. Now, that may sound small to somebody else, but to her, that was everything. I love this example. It's another beautiful example. I've actually talked about this gentleman in other podcasts. We had another senior client teach her grandchildren how to play hopscotch. Think about that now. Not watching, but actually playing. And she told us afterward that she and her husband almost didn't want to let the kids take turns because they were having so much fun themselves. That's what people lose when they start acting their age. Not just ability. Joy. And I'll show you why this makes me so angry. Honestly, phrases like, you shouldn't be doing that at your age, make me angry. Because they're rooted in a lie. And the worst part is sometimes those messages come from family members. Sometimes from friends. Sometimes, dare I say, even from healthcare professionals. Not out of cruelty, but out of conditioning. People genuinely believe decline is automatic. So they unintentionally encourage surrender. Here's the bigger truth. You are not supposed to stop moving. You are not supposed to stop playing. You are not supposed to stop exploring your abilities. Because the body adapts to what you repeatedly ask it to do. And when people stop asking the body to live, the body slowly stops responding. The lie of at your age is not really about behavior. It's about identity. Because the moment someone accepts the idea that age determines ability, they begin shrinking themselves physically, emotionally, and socially. But once someone reconnects with movement, with confidence, with playfulness, with possibility, everything changes. And helping people rediscover that possibility, it's just one more way we help you reach your level of wellness. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you next time.